you can tell anyone your idea. You can tell 1,000 people, and most of them, 999, probably will get excited, might try it for a week, and then just give up. I had to book the worst Airbnb ever, reach out, and everybody just ignored everything apart from one person from Techstars.
What would you have done differently in the early stages of the business? I'm here with an amazing entrepreneur. His name is Peter. Just to give you a bit of background on Peter, he is the CEO of MyARC, a platform that enables fitness content creators to train their fans at scale. They've taken creators from minimum wage to six figures and are on track to create their first MyARC millionaires on the platform. He has previously struggled with obesity, which led him to the gym. They've raised 1.6 million to scale this platform. So I'm super interested to hear his life story, his journey, and how he's building MyARC. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me and for the delicious bubble tea. Yeah, my order to a tea.
Yeah, we're going to get into this because I like to do a bit of analysis on the type of person I think someone is.
Okay.
Based on their bubble tea order. And there was something that struck me about you. You gave me your order straight away. Like, you were like, I know what I want. I want a jasmine milk tea, extra tapioca. And I was like, this is a guy that knows what he wants. He's driven. He gets things done. Would you say that was a fair analysis?
I think that's a very generous analysis. I agree with her statement.
Thank you. Okay, let's get into it. So I know you were telling me that you struggled with obesity as a kid and this kind of led you to build what you are building today. So yeah, tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so I did struggle with childhood obesity. I was morbidly obese.
Morbidly?
Yeah, and for me it was interesting because I didn't know anything to do with fitness, nutrition, etc. So I educated myself a lot on it. As a kid, I always was curious about things, and I was curious as to why I was so fat and my classmates weren't. So I wanted to learn about that. And then at that point, I remember buying the first ever kind of PDFs from the first ever influencers.
Yeah, fitness PDFs.
Yeah, and such a waste of money at the time. Taking my mom's card to go and try and buy it and that sort of stuff. And when you get the PDF, it was this very useless, generic type thing. And obviously at the time as a kid, you're not going to afford a personal trainer, and you can't really convince your parents
to pay for it. Yeah,
that it just didn't make sense for a kid to even want that. So a lot of kind of self-taught training, a lot of trial and error, of course, but I ended up going from obese to a national level athlete in the space of about 2 years.
That's crazy.
In cross-country athletics, so youth level running. So yeah, for me, fitness saved my life. It's one of my biggest passions. And what kind of led to MyARC is a bit of that, because at the time, I was, around, after I just finished university, around 2019, I started my first company with still my co-founder now, Arahan, and it was a computer vision type system to track your form as you exercise. And I remember I was going around almost every gym in London, over 100 plus gyms. And what I noticed was that a lot of these trainers, some of them had a following.
Yeah.
And they were still, they weren't making much money. I was like, wait, if you have 100,000 followers, why aren't you rich? That was my assumption.
You would think, isn't it?
And a lot of them a lot of creators are making money. And I looked at what they were selling at the time to their 100,000 plus followers, and it was a ebook and PDFs and Word documents and Excel sheets. And I was thinking, wait a second, this is the same thing that I was buying when I was obese as a kid over 10 years ago. I'm like, if you're not selling that, you're selling really expensive online one-to-one coaching that could be between $500 to $1,000 a month. So you either have a shitty generic PDF that is like a cookie cutter type stuff that just doesn't work for people, or really expensive personalized coaching and fitness that prices most people out.
You need that middle ground, don't you?
And that's what we wanted to solve. I was like, the state of online fitness hasn't changed in over a decade. What is going on here? So this kind of led to the pivot to what we're doing. Why is online coaching so expensive? Yeah. And it's because creators have to manually customize every training plan. Yeah. And what we thought was okay, why don't we automate that labor intensive part and personalize it ourselves and create unique data profiles for each individual fan?
You can do that.
So that's our kind of whole thesis, is personalization at scale, so that instead of one creator being capped at training 20, 30 people and charging so much more for it, they can now train 1,000 people, 10,000, unlimited people, and brings the price from $1,000 a month down to about $20 a month. And that's what we've gone for. So what it does two things, right? One, it now increases the earning potential for these fitness creators significantly. Hence why we're taking creators from minimum wage to six figures. And then two, it makes personalized fitness much more accessible for consumers, where they save from $1,000 a month to $20 a month, and they don't have to pay or $100 an hour for a personal trainer. And really, it's a mixture of a few things, right? The kind of data tracking, the personalization is one thing, but then the community is another thing. We've built a great community for users around the world. We've got thousands and thousands using it, supporting each other, motivating each other. And we've got people overcoming obesity, coming out of a diabetic state.
Yeah.
And we even had a breast cancer survivor gain muscle for the first time after failing on 3-4 different apps. So that's the kind of power of it, right? When you can democratize such an important thing, you get these real world impacts. So you've got economic empowerment for the creators and these kind of democratized health transformations for consumers.
Yeah, I totally appreciate that, because during my master's, I really struggled with gaining weight very quickly. I was like super stressed. My sort of technology company wasn't really working out. And I was like, I need a solution. And I went to a personal trainer and I was forking out, honestly, I don't even want to say the price, but I remember telling my mum, if I can't continue gaining this weight that rapidly, and if there was someone, I think it was still a worthwhile investment, but if there was a cheaper way that could have happened.
Yeah.
And I know it puts a lot of people off knowing they have to fork out that much to.
Yeah. And I think it's also, and this isn't to discredit personal trainers or anything like that, because they also do great work themselves and they have people who can afford and really rely on them because they want that really, that one-to-one human touch.
It's just nice to sometimes have.
Which you can understand, but there are millions and millions of people who probably can't do £100 an hour or $200 an hour, etc. And you can still have that community and accountability and motivation part. And I think the world has changed a bit when it comes to socials, when it comes to online communities and so forth. So you can still have a lot of that at a fraction of the price. And that's what we were seeing, because I think as well, not just the future of fitness is creator-centric, but the future of consumer, in my opinion, is creator-centric, where creators are the new distribution channel.
It's true. People buy from people, don't they, now?
That's true. And I think Google ads, Facebook ads, all the stuff doesn't work as much. But if you have, creators at the forefront and it's, it's around them, they've got the distribution, and that's what helped us grow organically, right? We've spent $0 on marketing and we've been able to generate 7 figures plus in ARR because of that, right? Because the creators have a trusted community fan base. They bring the fans onto the app.
Yeah.
So we don't have to spend money on advertising. Instead, we just provide the infrastructure, almost like an operating system for online fitness and fitness at scale, basically.
So do you take a cut out of every...
So the business model is, we'd like to say it's B2B2C, because again, we view the future of even businesses as creators, or these individuals almost are like this business type entity because of the fan base they have, etc. So we acquire the creators, have a fan base, they bring onto the platform, and then we take a platform fee, and that's how we operate. And that's how we get revenue. And it's very creator friendly because we don't charge creators thousands up front, which is what some one-to-one online coaching providers would do.
Do they pay to come on your platform?
No, exactly. So
we just take commission.
We never want to charge them because we know a lot of them, again, don't have the money. But I think about 60% of creators especially the beginner creators don't make more than $100 a month. So it'd be pretty unfair to charge them. So for us, if you don't win, we don't win. That's the thing with it. So we make sure to scale them and stuff like that first before anything.
But it's cool because you're taking what they do have, which is it's a committed fan base, and exchanging that, found a way for them to make money, both of you, which is
it's, I'd say, unlocking existing demand that wouldn't be able to be unlocked because of a lack of technology or infrastructure to enable that one-to-many training experience to happen in a way where people still find it personalized. Because again, creators right now a lot of them still do the PDFs, which is you can't have what we like to call static fitness, where if you and I download the same training plan or the same PDF, it's going to be exactly the same for us. It needs to be unique to each of us, and we're going to perform differently. You might lift more than me.
Thank you. I think I do.
I think she does. You might progress better than me. I might need more time. Things like that. And the good thing is that fitness can be quite mathematical in terms of how to progress. There's different exercise science algorithms that we're working on as well to keep pushing people one step at a time. That's the right pace for them, basically.
And also, so I want to go back to this. You were obese as a child. I just wanted to get into what do you think made you obese, and then how did you go from being obese to athlete level? That's just such a flip. Like, a lot of people just even never lose weight, let alone go to athlete level. Can we just dig a bit into that?
Yeah, I think as a kid you don't really know much, and I think sometimes parents overfeed, or as a kid you don't really have impulse control that much. You're just overeat, even if it's healthy food. If you eat too much,
You will just put,
yeah. And I think for me as well, another motivation was I was really football crazy as a kid. And I remember another realization was like, oh, I've never seen a fat football player.
So,
So I was just like, in my head, I was just like, oh, I need to lose weight.
yeah.
I think my brother was also obese as well. And he lost the weight as well. And he actually he's a very good weightlifter, but he also became a national cheerleader.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's very good at like holding people up and flipping them, etc. And I think what changed him, which also helped influence me, was he watched that movie. What was that movie called? That one where that guy does a documentary and eats lots. Super Size Me, I think.
Oh, I remember that show.
Yeah.
I remember that. That's a throwback.
So that scared my brother. And then I saw him training and I was already in the mode of educating myself. And that also helped motivate me to do it. And then I saw him lose weight and I'm competitive. So I was like, oh, I need to
Lose weight as well.
And I think I'm quite competitive. I think sports has helped me channel that competitiveness. I feel.
So you saw your brother, that motivated you to lose weight and you became an athlete.
Yeah, so it was like national youth level. I'm not qualified for the Olympics or anything like that. And then played football at a good level as well. But for me, it was more like I was always like happy when I'm training or happy when I'm playing football, etc. But yeah.
Did you just really enjoy food?
I still really enjoy food, but it was more just like not understanding macronutrients, the effect of how many calories you're consuming, a lot of stuff, right? That kind of contributes to gaining weight or increasing even the difference between good fats and bad fats and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was just it's just a lack of know-how, right? A lot of people have a lack of know-how when it comes to training, when it comes to nutrition, and that's where we also want to help with people, right? To give them like that holistic wellness type experience where we can help them with not just personalization of training plans, but we're going to look at nutrition and other stuff as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for like delving into that a bit more. Like it's really interesting to hear. So the next section of the podcast is going to be called 0 to 6 months, because basically the point of this podcast is for aspiring entrepreneurs to see everything you did in the beginning just to really get yourself off the ground, because I think that's the hardest thing. So yeah, you had this idea. How did it begin?
Sorry, I have so much tapioca.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. So don't worry, we'll edit stuff.
No, that's fine because I ordered extra tapioca.
Exactly. So that's a you problem, though, JK.
That's the drawback of it.
Why did you want extra tapioca?
I just really like it.
Oh, I love that. That's cute.
Yeah, so like I said, the first version of the company is what we pivoted because we saw that learning, and then that's where things took off a bit more. I think like one of the best ways to validate your idea is, will strangers at a random part in the world part with their cash to use something that you've built? That's, I think, one of the best ways to, I think, validate it, because if you put something that's free, anyone can try it, but it's quite hard to know if that's something that people really want. It's a good indicator someone that you don't know and they're just seeing you for the first time will part with $20 straight away, because it's not non-negligible, etc. And also it means that no matter how shitty your first website is and how dodgy it is, if someone is still putting money there, then it's a good indication that they might really need this. And that's how we went from the start. So we did not have the nicest tech or the nicest looking websites or anything like that. But we just needed to get it out there and just experiment and just learn from that. A lot of people, I think, spend a lot of time on making things look absolutely perfect. And that just doesn't exist.
Because I think even YC say that sometimes they have founders on their program and the customers are always complaining like it doesn't work well, but if customers are complaining and they're still going back to it and parting their money, then there must be something there, even though it's like not right.
That's a great point. If they're complaining and it's terrible, like from the inside under the hood, but they're still wanting to use it, that's a pretty good sign. And it's just about taking the learnings, where people are falling off, why people are falling off, or what they're complaining about, and just iterating as quick as you can with this minimal resource. Because for us, we had no resource, and I think for that year when we pivoted around 2021, the only full-time kind of person.
Was this straight after uni?
Yeah, exactly. So I had no money.
So you had no job either?
No job. I rejected job offers instead of going down to like the consulting route to build it. I finished with a first class in university, had good job offers. They were good job offers, good starting salaries, etc. But I didn't want to do it. I wanted to explore and do that, but I was the only full-time person. And I remember we built something, it was getting good traction for how bad it was. But you can't like do it one person full-time and then two people part-time.
How does that even work? I've had that struggle before. Like when you feel like you're giving everything, it's not in a bad way. They've obviously people got to live, but like how do you make that work in terms of like even equity distribution?
Yeah. That's a pretty good question. I think it's important if you're going to be doing this together, like the journey will be maybe over 5 years. So I think it's important to have equal distribution, even if you're part-time, full-time.
I agree, yeah.
For the time being, because there is the assumption that you will all go together. And I think that's the way for everyone to feel valued. It's good. And it also shows investors that these guys are in it together. There's an incentive for them to stay together.
Because if one person has more, it feels, or less, they're less valuable.
But there'll be, people could think there's incentive for them to walk away and things like that. But what helped us all get full-time was, I remember going to, I think it was Web Summit in November of 2021. And I had almost zero money in my account. So I put it all to get the plane ticket to go to Lisbon and also pay for the ticket to Web Summit, which I found a discounted one, thanks to a friend who I randomly met in a WeWork, and he hooked me up with someone who had a discounted ticket. His name was Parham, who was one of the founders of Hustle, actually.
Okay,
So shout out to Parham for finding a discounted ticket. It really changed a lot of things. And then, I had to book the worst Airbnb ever. It was like almost like, I think it's like a hostel with like 10 people, one shower that only had cold water.
Oh, for 10 people.
And the toilet did not work, so I had to go to the cafe around the corner, whatever. It was horrible conditions, and I had to, wanted to be at the venue every morning at 8 a.m. and then go to the networking things that would sometimes finish at 1, 2 a.m. and then back. And it was just the most horrific
experience.
5-day period. But because of that, I had met someone from Techstars, and it was after I spoke to, over 200 people there. I had to make like a tracker of people I met just to reach out, and everybody just ignored everything apart from one person from Techstars, who passed it on to another person, that passed it on to another person. And I thought it was just going to be a closed door. And then one person liked it and then tried it herself, and she liked it. And then she introduced us to one of the MDs at Techstars that said the application was closed, but wanted to just put us through to the next round and see what would happen. And we did all the other rounds, and then we got into Techstars. That was the first investor, and that helped everyone quit their jobs and go full-time around March, April 2022. And that was really important.
So you gave everyone the means through raising investment to come on.
It wasn't that much cash, but it was enough to get everyone. And it was like Techstars $120K.
That's all right, isn't it?
It's more money than I've ever seen in my life. So I was like, yeah, cool. And Techstars is very, one of the world's best accelerators, them and YC. But and that kind of helped us and go full time and just build a lot quicker, fail a lot quicker, lots of learnings there. And then we raised a tiny amount January 2023 to keep us alive. And that was around $150K. So overall less than $300K at the time. And with that small amount and the team of 4, because we hired one person around September, August 2022, we were able to, with that little capital amongst 4 people, scale it to over 7 figures in recurring revenue. And
just 4 people and minimal funding.
And 2 people coding. That's it.
Wow.
2 people coding, Arahan and Nikhil.
You had no outsourced, you weren't outsourcing any of it?
Nothing.
Really?
Arahan and Nikhil, we were even doing like hacky things because their time is so valuable to just build the actual product, etc. That if we wanted to change the landing pages up an experiment, we just build it on Wix, myself or Blake. And that was such a funny nightmare because it was so manual. And you just want to automate as things as possible. A good thing to always bear in mind is build the shitty hacky version as much as you can.
Do you think?
First. And then if it looks like it's working, then bring tech involved and automate it and change it up. And because that informs how the product can be built, or like a faction of the product and so forth.
I've got this thing that like when things don't look good, I'm just like really don't want to put it out.
Make it look good.
Fairs, but like scrappy.
Yeah. So, but no one knows what backend it has or how it works, or if you need to migrate that backend later because it's the database structure, database schema is just terrible. But users don't know that. If it looks good and you can touch a button and you can still do what you need to do, then and sign up, that's fine.
And the next question is going to be like, how did you convince your co-founders to work with you? And where did you, first of all, where did you find them? How did you convince them to work with you? Or were they convincing you? I don't know what order that was.
So like I said, Arhan and I worked on that previous computer vision based thing. And we met at Kickstart, which was like, for people who don't know, is like a intra-university entrepreneurship type thing where different unis come together, you work on a project, etc. And we liked what we built and we kept going after the program with it. And then we pivoted, and Arahan brought his friend from university. They both went to Imperial, Nikhil, and both engineers, both very smart. And Nikhil was working for THG at the time, and that's the company that owns like MyProtein, Look Fantastic, and Zavi. So always creator-driven type software, and he's a very good engineer, very good developer. And Arahan pitched it to him, and he was curious, wanted to do it, wouldn't quit the job at the same time, because fair enough, you've just got out of uni, he just got that job, and but we had other people that was around the fringes who wanted to do this stuff, but he stayed on, if that makes sense, and he kept doing it because he was just very interested. And you could tell people will always say, oh yeah, I want to join, I want to do this, I want to do that, but it's the actions over words. Sure. So if someone keeps doing it and keeps showing up every single time, even after work, that's pretty good. And that's why the equity distribution, we wanted it to be equal.
Because you value him enough to...
Because someone also, although they're part-time, they're still doing a full-time job, and then instead of relaxing after that, they're doing this. And that's a lot of sacrifice too.
And he can't not eat, he has to.
Yeah.
But I've also found that with potential co-founders, like people doing things, because when things get hard, everyone's, oh yeah, sounds great, I want to build this tech startup, but then doing it is another thing.
Yeah, motivation dissipates really fast.
Honestly.
And when the kind of like euphoria of, oh, this idea is going to change the world goes away, and
you've got the wheeze and the reality.
And you're not getting a reply from anyone or a potential customer, no one's clicking on something on the side or signing up, then when reality kicks in, that's when you start to see who runs for the hills and who just rolls up their sleeves and gets it done and gets dirty with it.
There's a lot of dedication there. It's another level of someone who's willing to fight and keep it going.
So me, it reminds me of fitness, right? Like you have that, imagine like on New Year resolution, everyone's like super amped to go to the gym and the motivation's there. And as soon as motivation goes, people like drop off, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me, what helps with the sporting background is like discipline over motivation every time. So like you will attend training sessions or you'll attend these things when you don't want to go or you feel exhausted, but you just show up anyways and you just do it. And that's what really helps, right? It's the very boring stuff that people don't like to do that just has to get done. And I think that's why a lot of people fall off, because it can be very monotonous, it can be very labor intensive, etc. And you might be doing something and you don't see progress go like this. It's that delayed gratification. Most people want instant gratification, and that does not work
in a startup.
Yeah. Like definitely not.
It took me a long time to learn that you don't have to enjoy things to do them. I know it sounds like really weird, but I remember hearing Cristiano Ronaldo saying, I hate training some days. I was thinking, I thought you got up every day and you do what you love. So the fact that he was there like, nah, I have days where do you think I want to get up and go to the gym?
Yeah, I think I saw his interview with the Whoop founder.
I think that might be the one I was referring to. Yeah.
And he said like a funny quote of, I can give you the blueprint, but will you do it? Like I can show you everything, I'll give it to you, but will you do it? And that's true. You can, and this is funny because a lot of times founders are very secretive of their ideas and they don't want to tell anyone and stuff like that. But you can tell anyone your idea. You can tell 1,000 people, and most of them, 999 probably will get excited, might try it for a week and then just give up.
Yeah.
And so forth. And another thing is, there was like a saying, it was like, first-time founders are super secretive with their ideas. Second-time founders will just want to shout their idea from the rooftop because they need users, they want distribution. That's the main thing for them, etc.
Yeah, it reminds me, actually doing it is a completely, because even like talking to entrepreneurs in the podcast, because I was trying to raise for my edtech platform, that's how we met, through Kickstart, which is an amazing, if you're at university, it's an amazing program. But yeah, when I heard the sacrifices people were making to raise funding, I was like, do I even want to go down this route?
Venture funding isn't for everyone, in the sense of like your business might not be a VC type business, if that makes sense, where like, and VC means venture capital, where you could be building a lifestyle business. You might be building a profitable type business that doesn't need lots of capital. And then for you to grow to 100 million in like the next 2 to 3 years, or $1 billion valuation in the next 4 to 5 years, which is how those VC funds operate. Yeah. They want one company to return the entire fund and so forth.
And that's the journey you're willing to go on.
Yeah, my investors are watching. Yes, I am. That is exactly what we are going to do.
I believe you will do it. Okay, so what were some of the main challenges you had in the early stages of running a business?
I think the challenges keep evolving. We still have challenges every day. Some days at 9, 10 a.m. you'll feel like up here, and then by 2 p.m. you're like punched in the gut. And you're down here. And then by 3, you level out. 3, 4, 5, etc. And then it keeps going. But yeah, I think the challenges, they change over time. The challenges, I think, in the initial part, I think are probably one of the hardest, because it's really where a lot of the sacrifice happens, where you're not getting any money. You're not having, I didn't have a salary.
What were you living off?
Some of my student loan that I saved, that had left over, and then moved in with parents for a bit, which is, as they say, like, you save on rent, but your mental health goes.
Yeah. For Asian and Black parents, now I'm joking.
And then, you almost have that kind of, for me, it didn't affect me as much, but I know for like other founders I've spoken to, all your other friends are making a lot of money. They're doing a classic consulting or banking, and you're not making any money. Like, what are you doing with your life? And you can really compare it with other people and be like, if I taking the wrong path.
Yeah.
For me, it doesn't affect me as much because I don't care whether people do. I've always been like that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, my belief is, and I think you need that in a team, because I think I'm here in terms of, I don't care about other people. And then of my co-founders, they'll have that realism. I think I'm not as realist as them, if that makes sense. And you need that balance, because you need someone to really push everyone forward to be like, no, F everyone, you can do this.
Yeah.
But you also need that realism to be like, okay, let's not get too crazy, because we also need to like plan for things and set targets.
Exactly. So you've got that. Yeah.
And we need to like work backwards from those targets to be like, okay, if we want to, for example, break even and pay ourselves a salary, we need to get this much revenue, which means this many creators, which means this. And we got to do this and that. And then reverse engineer it. And that's important as well, because you can't also have your head in the clouds
all the time.
You need to like have a bit of, what's the thing? Touch the ground a bit. Right?
Yeah. Have you seen the picture with Aristotle on the ground and Plato's like looking up, or is it the other way around? Have you seen that photo?
I don't think so.
No, it couldn't have been a photo. It's like a painting. But I really even want to delve back into what you said about comparison, because that was really tough for me as an entrepreneur. But then I spoke to my friends in corporates who were making a lot of money. They hated it. So it can even be a sense that even if you're comparing, if you dig deep down, would you want their life? Would you want to be working without freedom?
Yeah. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs would probably get fired in those jobs, because I think you're quite contrarian as a person. And I think you'd struggle with the kind of, sometimes there's like inefficient systems, and you'll want to, as naturally as an entrepreneur, want to change the inefficient system, right? And get it to an efficient system, rather than making the inefficient system more efficient, which is just, it's still an inefficient system.
Yeah, it doesn't work that well in a corporate, that sort of mindset and that sort of person, because they're always disrupting things, and they're like, you just need to stick to...
Yeah, and as J. Cole says, love yours. So.
What does that mean? Love your... That sounds really deep.
Yeah, have you seen that? Have you not heard that song?
No.
Oh, I recommend check it out. He basically says there's always going to be a bigger house than the one you have, a better car than the one you have, a better partner than the one you have, but no one's life is better than yours.
So love yours.
So love yours, yeah.
That is so deep.
I can't believe I quoted J. Cole lyrics like that.
No, but that honestly, I don't want to sound deep, but that gets me like super emotional. I bought this quote. It's the only quote like I have in my room, but it's like, when you love what you have everything. And for me, it just feels that whatever in this life.
Yeah, even like with like in the entrepreneur world, like on LinkedIn, if you see, X person raised X million, this million, it's, I just did this milestone, but they just raised 20 million. And you're like, but you can't, you have to just one step at a time and focus on what's around you, because that's the most relevant thing. Everything else is a distraction. Blinders on, and you're building for yourself, you're building for your co-founders, you're building for your users, for the people whose lives are changing. For us, it's like when I see people overcome obesity on the app, when I see people living a healthy lifestyle, when I see people's mental health change.
You're essentially saving lives.
When they write on the community, like I was a mother of 4 struggling with postnatal depression, and now I feel like I've got my spark back. Like, these are real people, real messages, and that's the kind of motivation really behind it. That's the, as they say, your why. And seeing that makes it way better than any LinkedIn news or anything like that, or whatever anyone's doing, and so forth, because you have a specific purpose, and it's to help these people live a better life. And then on the other side of things, it's like taking people from minimum wage to like financial freedom is also an incredible thing. And just hearing firsthand how they said they've gone from council flat to like hundreds of thousands is a pretty incredible story.
So you're helping two sides.
Yeah, for us, I'm just happy that we can help our users and help them in the best possible way, living a healthier life and living a richer life.
Yeah, and what two things are more important? But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that and quoting J. Cole. I think that was the first time and probably the only time on the podcast, but keep it real. So the next sort of section of the podcast is going to be your sales process, because you've got a very good sales process. You have got very good revenue. A lot of startups, they don't. They hide that revenue. They don't have good revenue, even though they've raised a lot. How do you make sure you're generating revenue? And I think you're profitable now, if I remember correctly. Can I say?
We hit break even. Then we were cash flow positive, and now we're looking to invest back into the business. So we're okay to no longer be cash flow positive, but we're always going to keep burn in check. And I think for us, the reason we had that mentality is because we had no resources. So we've been frugal from day one, but also capital efficient from day one as well. And I think that's very important, because if you get millions of dollars from the off-start without any product or any revenue, it's very easy to get in the habit of let's throw money at it, rather than have to be super creative to solve something when you have barely any time to solve it. everything's breaking, everything's on fire, and you need to do it fast.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. So that's where that mindset came from. And what metrics are you using to make sure you're on track?
I think everyone has, and this is practical advice for founders, is that you can't measure everything. So you have to pick the kind of main metrics that make sense for your business. So like for us, it's going to be like that platform revenue, because it means our creators are making money, the growth rate of that, and then we're looking at the retention of that as well for the customers, and see where we can get better at and so forth. And also, again, specific to us, we're looking at creator wallet share. So how much is each creator making, getting that median up, the average up, and so forth. And I'm happy to say that majority of our creators are making 6 figures, and that's a massive improvement from 2 years ago when we launched it. The median income you make on MyARC is more than the US annual median income, more than the UK annual median income, than any other country in the world, etc. So yeah, it really depends on your platform, right? So if you're a social media app and you're not charging for people, revenue doesn't make sense. But how long do they stay on the platform? Or your daily active users, that's a metric that could make sense, right? Are they inviting friends? Maybe there's that viral coefficient that's existing, and one person invites 6 people and they invite 6 people. So you have to pick what's relevant to your business model and your product.
How do you make sure you have this laser focused approach to reaching those metrics and targets? Because startup life can be quite distracting, things like that. So
yeah, I think like because you can't focus on so many things. And again, when you have no resource, you're forced to focus on the only things that matter. So again, if revenue is the main thing, then again, work backwards as to what are the key actions I need to do to hit 10% growth or 15% growth. And yeah, for the past 18 months on average, we were able to grow double digits every month because we just kept that focus of what do we need to do to hit this target? What do we need to do to grow it further? What do we need? And you go from that. Everything else is a distraction. It's so easy to say yes to a lot of things. The hardest thing is to say no to 99% of things. And just saying no is a superpower. For example, I remember we had like a big creator whose their audience was mainly in South America, and we thought, okay, great, let's take them on, etc. The issue with that is that our product was a bit too, it wasn't not mature, but it wasn't ready to handle internationalization and like different languages. We didn't even like think of changing the exercise names from English to Spanish. I was like, oh, I can speak Spanish. Let me just make the web page in Spanish. That's fine. But no, the entire app experience needs to match the locale of that person's audience. And things need to be a bit different because every geography has different preferences for users. And that was a good learning point to be like, okay, cool. If we keep getting these inbounds of people from parts of the world that we don't support those languages and things like that, then we have to just say no.
Because it's hard to say no to more money.
Yeah, or the potential for it.
The potential for more money, yeah, because I'm guessing he or she had a big following.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh, wow, yeah, this could be good. And you realize, actually, no, let's just stay on our target archetype, our target customer, and just focus on that. And that's it. And refining that even better to keep looking for what success looks like. And again, reverse engineering. So like, if this creator makes this much revenue, let's look for lookalikes and what are the characteristics and similarities we can find in other ones, and what did they do well, and then how can we standardize the sales process that we help that creator to scale? Can we standardize that almost as a blueprint and help others to scale? And you have to get to this kind of like scalable, repeatable machine to like really help take it off, basically.
Brilliant. And yeah, we've got like a quick game for you.
Oh yeah?
That we're going to play. It's called Would You Rather. So how I like to usually start Would You Rather is, would you rather have dinner with Jay-Z or $500,000?
That's such a I've seen that so much on I'll take the dinner with Jay-Z.
Do you know what? This is why I feel we get along, because I feel like we're one of the few people, two of the few people who would take the dinner. Who would not? Why would you not take the dinner?
I'll take the dinner with Jay-Z.
Yeah. And
I'll try and charm him as much as I can.
I think get him to invest because he's got 500K.
I'll try and be his friend and then get him to invest. Oh, actually, you know what? Get him to sign up to our monthly update newsletter. And that's how we usually get our investors now.
You like just update them on how much progress you've been making. And then...
But I think that's a hack for a lot of founders to do. It's very simple. Every investor you meet or people of interest, slap them on the monthly newsletter, and every month you send it out without fail. We've sent it, we've done 26 months in a row of that. And we had an investor, I remember, say no to us to invest in September time. Fast forward 9+ months, they cut our biggest check in the business. They saw every month the consistency, because their initial worry was like, oh, can you keep it growing? Can you do this? Can you do that? And then we say, yeah, of course. Like that's the whole plan. We're not going to actively try not to grow. But action is louder than words. Information is better. So every month you just saw the revenue go up.
And then he's thinking.
And then at that point, they'll reach out to you. They'll invite you for a coffee, and then they say, hey, I want to invest.
Because a no now might not be a no long term. That's something I've learned on the podcast, that never burn bridges because things can change,
Yeah. And it is very tempting to
It is tempting
with investors because
to be like, forget you then.
no, more like sometimes, and again, this goes back to a founder's mindset of hating inefficiencies or something like that, illogical. And a lot of the times investors don't tell you the real reasons, and they'll tell you like reasons that don't make sense or contradictory stuff given the information you've shared with them or the calls you've had. And it really can frustrate a founder, I think. And you have to take a step back. I know that I've had times where like I've debated some investors via email because their points didn't make sense. And I've spoken with investors who have said, oh, by the way, the real reason was this. And I'm just like, why can't you just be upfront to founders? Like,
what were some of the real reasons you think people can't be upfront about?
I don't know. I think they try and, I'm speculating here, but it's also about saving space. Sometimes they don't want to say that they're not actively deploying or not actively investing, just so they can keep getting deal flow. There's so many different reasons.
So many different reasons.
Sometimes they just didn't care.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't actually like you. You actually don't know.
And the thing is, I think it's hard to just be like,
I don't like you.
Yeah. And I think that's why people are off put by saying it, because they feel it's not really a good reason to give. But I think
I don't believe in you. That's another one to be like, I actually don't believe you can do it. And that could be for whatever reason. Maybe they think the space is too hard, or maybe they think your product is bad, or maybe they have cognitive bias of
who can do something.
Or it could be racial bias. It could be any type of bias, right? We know how bad diversity is in the VC ecosystem, and how much goes to non-white founders, non-Oxbridge, non-like ex-McKinsey. The percentage that goes to black women founders is less than 1%. It's like 0.02 or something. So it's like this bias exists.
This bias exists.
It's there, and they might not be aware of it, or they might be aware of it.
I think this is why people don't say the real reason. I think those reasons are just too harsh to say to someone.
It can be. So I think, the best thing a founder can do is just
hold your head up high.
Just take it on the chin. A quick no is the second best thing to a yes.
Yeah.
Get the no as quickly as you can, and then add them to the investor list if you want them, and then just keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward. Amen to that.
I remember I had this like scolding email I scheduled to send out.
Oh, scolding.
But I think when I woke up and I reread it and it was going to go out in 5 minutes, I scheduled it for the morning. I just cancelled. I was like, no, this can't go out.
And you feel better for it, don't you?
Yeah, I was just like, you know what, let me just leave it.
All right. That was one question, wasn't it? Wait. Okay. So if you could time travel, would you rather go to the past or the future?
I think to the future, so then you can come back with that future knowledge and go and make a product.
First. So you're going to see how you're going to make millions.
I wouldn't change the past, because the past makes you who you are, and those are good learnings.
There's nothing in the past you would change.
And for off podcast.
That's fair enough. All right. So the final would you rather is, would you rather have dinner with Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, or Elon Musk? Steve Jobs when he was alive.
Oh, Steve Jobs, I think. Yeah.
For what reason?
I think he's probably, out of those three, maybe the most iconic one. And definitely, I think, changed the world more than the other two, I think. And also my co-founder is obsessed with him, so I'd have to bring them along.
Yeah.
Both of them, to be fair.
Yeah.
So I'd have to bring them.
He was fantastic, but I was reading this I was actually watching this YouTube video. He was quite a cruel guy. And apparently loads of like really successful founders are like quite not nice.
I guess it depends on, you can still be nice and still be assertive, I think.
And say the truth.
Yeah. Some people might like that. Some people really, I think it just comes down to the culture that you create and the people who are aware of the culture ahead of time and coming inside and being okay with that. Because you also don't want to make people uncomfortable for no reason and be mean for no reason. But in a startup, things are very like, we have to get this done. Yeah. And we have to do it as fast as possible.
There's no time for nicety sometimes.
Not for that, but it's more if you say you're going to do something, you just better do it, basically. Like you don't you don't want to lie to your team. You don't want to do this or do that. Or they say in corporate world, sandbagging, where like you list out all the things you've done, but really it's just to do that so that it looks like you're busy and doing a lot of stuff where you actually just, none of that matters. Ego to the side. It's just, here are the main goals. Have we hit them? Have we done everything we could to them? Have you got something that you don't know? Cool. Just say you don't know it, because that could be a bottleneck. Maybe someone can help you. I can help you. They can help you. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Just don't be afraid to say, I don't know something. Like that's an important thing. I think you don't know majority of things in the world. That's it. You don't know it. So try and solve it together.
This is something that's come up like all the time today. Like people keep saying ego, drop the ego. Like why do you think that's so important in entrepreneurship particularly?
Because the world doesn't care about your ego. Users don't care about your ego. And what you want to do is build the best possible thing that a lot of these people want. And sometimes ego can get in the way of that. Well, someone, let's say, has looked at all the user data, has interviewed 50 users and knows what the users want and just want to quickly experiment on something. Someone might come in with the ego, be like, no, I think they don't want that, with no actual reason or no like data, and they don't like the disagreement and they want to be the ones who are right and do it their way. And sometimes that can come from ego. So like you want to avoid that, and you just want to be as like open-minded as possible and be okay to have two opposing thoughts at the same time and just go and experiment. Be okay to say, you know what, I think Jeff Bezos said this, it'd be like, I disagree with you, but I'm going to commit and I'll back you.
Yeah.
I'll back you to do it, but let's just do it quickly and let's get the data in quickly, because if you're right, great. If you're not, cool, let's iterate and go to the next one.
I totally agree, because I think people, like I've seen in general, not saying that I'm perfect or anything, but people in the team, if they don't agree with the idea, they're not back, they're not going for it. But apparently the best team players, they don't have to agree, but they're going to execute whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's humbling to
I
just
think
back
sometimes
something.
my co-founders have a thing of a scale of like how much do you really give a F about this thing? Do you really give a F about it being this way? If so, and our kind of give a F factor is quite low, let's just go with your one.
Yeah.
Because if you might have there might be some reason there, like maybe your gut is telling you this, because sometimes gut is informed by all the information we have, and we're like, cool, let's just do it that way. And so if you have a low, I don't give a F factor, and that person has a high, I give a F factor because of whatever reason, let's just back you and see what happens.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that that's what you do within your team. So the next session of the podcast is called the Reali-tea. So we're going to, did you get it? So we're going to spill the tea on, really getting deep with you being a founder and all the good, juicy things. So have you ever wanted to quit, Peter?
There are some very low points where you want everything to just stop and just you want to freeze time, and you do want to quit. Like it would be a lie to say that there are times where it hasn't been so overwhelming, we just want to stop and just take a break and just do something else because of how difficult it is. Again, when you're not having any salary, when you're not doing XYZ, and it's just such a horrible time and everyone's saying no to you, like it's very easy to like want to throw in the towel. But that's when you remind yourself of, this is a temporary feeling and this is a temporary scenario. I believe in the team, I believe in the product, I believe in the mission, and it's just about getting to the next step and the next hurdle and then trying to just overcome that. And I think, again, fitness and training has helped a lot with that. Well, when you feel bad or whatever reason, or even when I've had injuries and I feel really low, whatever I can do, that's just one step, one action that I can take. That movement is life. And I think if you can keep movement, if you can keep the movement, you can keep the life, and you can keep the fire burning.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Peter. What's been your worst business moment, like ever, that you were like, I don't even know if I could continue?
This is the thing, I think, and founders do this all the time. We've done this so many times where we've catastrophized something and then it ends up being okay. Like your company didn't disappear, even though you had that feeling that everything was going to go to shit and things like that. So like founders have that, they catastrophize a lot. And I think the more you get desensitized to knowing that, like, okay, that firestorm happened and you're still alive, the better. And then the more you see that, the more you'll be like, okay, cool, let's just put this fire out quicker, rather than being like, oh my God, we're on fire. It's like, you're always going to be on fire. So you might as well get good at getting that extinguisher out.
What's the underrated piece of business advice you've ever received?
That you shouldn't listen to advice. So it's funny because the best advice is to like not listen to everyone's advice, take it with a pinch of salt. And just, again, their advice comes from their own bias, their own success, their own failures. And it's not like it won't be replicable for you, and it won't go in the exact same way for you. So take some of the things there for what they are. And there might be some things that could be very specific. If someone's telling you, by the way, you should do your database schema like this because this will happen, and then it makes sense. Because you're like, okay, that's very like a practical thing. But for things that are like more future bearing, of like, maybe you should develop the product like this or do it like that, or maybe users are going to want this. You'll use it better than anyone. And you also just scratch the surface as to knowing what they want and things like that. Take with a pinch of salt. The best indicator is just your users, and action equals information. So keep acting and you'll keep getting more information to keep making things better.
I love that. And what would you have done differently in the early stages of the business now?
I wouldn't have wasted so much time fundraising in the first part. I would have just kept everything on. We did need some funding, but we shouldn't have tried to raise like the round at the time. And just keep building and keep going and just get to where we were faster. And I think a lot of the time when you're fundraising, you're taken away from core parts of the business. So you want to minimize that time as much as possible. And it's sometimes very hard, especially if you're a founder from an underrepresented group. You don't have the network. You didn't grow up. You didn't go to Eton. You don't have Oxford. You don't have a rich network of friends and family rounds, or there could be like, you'll see friends and family rounds of 500,000 and you're like, who can I meet these friends and family, please? So yeah, I would have just focused on platform, get platform liquidity, get revenue, nail distribution better, and then raise money at that point, because then investors will be coming to you, which is what ended up happening a lot more.
Yeah. Because when you've got such a good value proposition, people will reach out because everyone they want to make money. And if you can do it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
What is, if any young people are listening and want to start a business, what would you tell them?
Don't do that. Don't do it. Run away. Get a job.
Seriously.
No, it's very hard. It's not glamorous at all. It's soul crushing, actually soul crushing. You have to be okay with getting rejected 99.99% of the time. But if you're okay with that, and you're okay eating shit for a long period of time with no kind of guarantee that it will work out, and you still want to give it a go, then that's a pretty good sign that it could be for you.
Brilliant. So we're going to go off into the sort of the closing section of the podcast. And I'm just wondering, what does the future look like for MyARC?
I think we're now at an interesting point where the junction is now, we've proved the concept. I think we're almost at product market fit. And now it's really about the kind of scalability element of it and shifting the company away from founder reliancy. So like being founder reliant, where we can build this repeatable, scalable machine. And it doesn't matter who's running it, if that makes sense. I think that's the next phase.
That's where you want to get to, isn't it? Yeah.
And what that looks like is really nailing all the kind of funnels of growth for us. On the supply side, it's the creator acquisition, getting that in, a lot faster, a lot quicker. On the consumer side of things, it's increasing retention. It's doing this, getting the feedback loops shorter and shorter to get these users activated and so forth. And establishing the team basically. Now that we've just closed our pre-seed, and that was just over $1 million. We'll announce it properly in September time. And now we can establish the team, because again, only 2 people coding and all that sort of stuff. We have an ambitious product roadmap where we really want to make a market leading product with the personalization tech that is the USP, and doubling down on that. The community side of things that we see is super important, that people, even investors, always underrate it. Not the investors that came on board, they saw the power of it and how our communities are.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, the beachheads, it's not the beachheads, that you can build a moat around community and the network effects that you see. So really getting the team right so that we can have that roadmap hit properly and in a short period of time.
Brilliant. And we like to end the Nova and Boba podcast on a high. So what is your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
There's 6 in my mouth.
Yeah, I saw them all come up the straw.
Yeah,
I was like,
very chewy tapioca.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready. I think, my favorite thing is, again, for us, is like, for me personally, is seeing the user stories and the success stories for both the creators and the fans. And for me, it is incredible to see, like, people come out of depression using the app. People build friendships for life using the app. People come out of obesity. They save thousands because they're no longer in a kind of diabetic state. And in America, a lot of our users in America, medical bills are a lot, right? And the other side is like getting to see the growth happen and see the things that you planned a year and a half ago, and the seeds that you've sown to start to be visible a bit, and getting parts of making that vision into a reality, I think is a pretty cool thing.
That is pretty cool. Thank you, Peter, for coming on the podcast. I've learned so much. Maybe I might go back into tech founding after hearing your amazing stories. I appreciate all the gems, all so actionable, and thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you for the jasmine green tea with 30% sugar, 100% ice, and extra tapioca. Thank you very much for my specific order.